Today on Faithfully Fantasy.
Did you steal my memories every time you touched my face last year? So there's an awkward silence and he doesn't immediately answer. You think he's about to say yes, but I actually have a theory and I will die on this hill. Dain does not have to touch people's faces to read their memories. Can I take a little bit of a moment to run through some of my thoughts around Garrick's signet? There's a couple of options. My number one option.
His hands are down her throat, exposing an expanse of tan art under his robes. What about if it's from Xaden's family tree? Hello and welcome to Faithfully Fantasy,
The husband and wife podcast talking all things Iron Flame.
I'm JC.
And I'm Sean.
And today we're diving into chapters 49 to 52 of Iron Flame.
Yes, there will be spoilers from Fourth Wing and Iron Flame.
Just a quick heads up, before we begin, these episodes it might contain some adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
Yes. So, today we're talking about chapters 49 to 52.
Yes.
The Iron Squad gets a shake-up when, surprise, surprise, Cat's Drift is absorbed into 4th Wing Flame Section, 2nd Squad. We find out Damp Dain has a penchant for languages as Violet counts on him to help translate not only Warwick's journal, Old Lucerish, but also the books Takaris has sent in Cravelish. We learn control with Felix, eat chocolate cake on the roof with Xaden, but the Venin have taken Pavis. Violet figures out that building wards needs dragons, not riders. She knows how to raise the wards. She's just not entirely sure they should.
Okay, a few things that are like really important for the book and these chapters.
Yeah, and we're going to go off on a few tangents today. I have got some, what I believe is comprehensive research into Garrick's signet, which is a really hot topic, and we're all obsessed with trying to find out what his signet is.
Yes. Okay, so straight to chapter 49.
Yes, the epigraph. Flyers and riders are held equal in every regard, with the exception of wing structure. Riders will maintain their wings, sections and squads, as well as retain their commands. Every drift will be absorbed by a squad, and their leader will replace the squad's current executive officer for unit cohesiveness and efficiency. Article 2, Section 1, the Erasure Accord.
Okay. So it's something that they're trying to make a little bit fair, but at the same time, it's just a lot of advantage for the riders.
Still puts the riders above, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's because they're terrified of the dragons. I've not got a lot, I've got to say, or the epigraphs for these 4 chapters, have not got a great deal to say about them. And normally I'm like, right, stop right there. We cannot move on until we've dissected each and every epigraph. But I feel like it's worth mentioning Sawyer in this. Obviously, Sawyer is 2nd Squad's executive officer, and he loses his rank, which you can tell it bugs him a bit later on, but he doesn't you can see it physically bugs him because he like narrows his eyes and things, but it doesn't sway him. He knows it's for the good of the squad, so he just
you understand what is being made of. And I think the leaders from the flyers, they not be like completely happy neither, because from being leaders they pass to be like second in command from obviously riders and flyers as well. Yeah,
so it's probably it's probably worse for Bragan than it is for Sawyer if you think about it. But Bragan, I like Bragan. Yeah, he seems like a decent guy. The thing about this is that Violet's not surprised. She says, we're the strongest squad, they're the strongest drift. She's like, I'm surprised you're all so surprised about it, basically. I've had a problem with this before, in that they always put the strongest with the strongest.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me, because then you've got the weakest with the weakest, which is obviously your weakest squad. You don't have a weak squad in a rider's quadrant or in as a drift, because they're all like massively strong. They're not like just your average Joe off the street. But you'd think they would spread them around a bit so that you've got
something more balance.
Yeah, and that is similar to what Xaden's suggesting with the graduated, right, with the actual military in-service riders, that they they balance people out by signets. So the signets that complement each other, which means that you wouldn't necessarily be with your squad. But it doesn't make sense to do that in the training because the first years haven't manifested their signets yet. And I think second squad, their signets seem to complement each other whenever there's a war game or something. But yeah, I feel like putting all the strong ones together is a plot device to get Cat and Violet together, isn't it?
Yeah, I think from the point of view that I think has been built is maybe like if you are in like a math class and you have like people with different levels, and then you're going to put maybe people that are in the same level together so you can give them more advance and you can maybe give them more potential.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I hadn't considered it like that.
Yeah, so that's how I see it. But obviously here it is more physical and should be like more, like you said, like more complementing with the stuff that you have.
Yeah, you can be right there. There's like a minimum standard, but once you're above that standard, you just get pushed and pushed. And if you're with stronger riders, you will push yourself hard. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So we have kind of like a little ceremony with riders giving a pat to the flyers, like welcome to the squad. We have Violet, she has to give it to Kat, even Ray trying to like help her, but she's no. Keeping it like professional, just trying to give it to her. And Kat is just obviously looking for
bitch.
Yeah, she's just looking for any excuse to cause trouble. And I think the first thing that she tried to do is just like manipulate her feelings. But when she starts to see that it's not working, is when she starts just talking non-stop.
I know, but she just embarrasses her. I've known Xaden longer. Can we just take a minute to work out why Xaden hates patches?
I mean, patches give away a lot of stuff about you. So I guess because obviously Xaden is Shadow Daddy. He likes to be in the shadow.
But it's so obvious it's him. His signet is like notorious. He's not got a classified signet, it'd be obvious.
No, but I don't know if it's more about the enemy. If they see what you got or who you are, then they can manage like how to defeat you.
Maybe.
Obviously, I don't know how it will defeat Xaden because if I shadow what you're going to do, you don't have lanterns in that time, or at least, well, you have like kind of like
mage lights.
Yeah, something like this, but not
And
like
candles.
really powerful to just like bright everything around.
Do you think it's just Xaden being different? You know, like, oh, he's too cool for patches. He is too cool for
Or maybe,
patches.
yeah,
honestly.
could be that. And,
If Xaden doesn't like patches, I don't like patches.
fair enough.
Although I have seen a couple of the new versions of Onyx Storm. If you buy them from independent retailers in the UK, you get a cloth patch, like an Onyx Storm cloth patch. And I'm like, I have already ordered 2 copies of Onyx Storm because I pre-ordered it and then I was like, I'll go to a midnight release. Is it acceptable to buy a third because I want a cloth patch? Now I've realised, and now I've remembered that Xaden doesn't like them. I don't need one.
Yeah, there you go. Follow Xaden path.
I do really want one. I won't wear it.
Oh, gosh.
I would wear it.
Again, we have Kath just obviously telling stuff to Violet that this doesn't change anything, that she still wanted that crown.
That crown that's been smelted down into a bigger
600 years
crown.
ago or something like
Yeah,
this.
so the crown of Tyrrendor was melted down to form the unification crown. So she's like, good luck with that. However, I do kind of feel like there would be the potential to be a spectacular moment where the crown of Navarre gets melted down and split into 6 crowns when they...
6 mini crowns there.
No, because it must be a massive crown. Because it was 6 crowns before, wasn't it? And then they melted them down and made one big crown. It's like a really heavy crown. We like Marin. Marin tells Kat she's being ugly.
Yeah, she's basically the one who's trying to be Kat's conscience. Like, come on, just grow up because you're being childish now.
Why do you think she lets Marin get away with talking to her like that? Like, everyone needs a friend like that that's going to be brutally honest and keep you, like, grounded. But she is Kat's best friend.
Yeah, I think
And
maybe
she's
those are the only moments when they are not agree.
Yeah, with Violet. But she's just constantly saying, stop it, you're being ugly, you're being a wretch. Oh, that was her sister. But anyway, it would be quite annoying if your friend kept doing that to you.
It's not on your side even when you know and she
Yeah.
know that you're wrong.
Yeah, like being a real friend would be sticking up for you in public, but then in the background being like, that was pretty ugly, you shouldn't do that again. Kind of thing. I don't know. And then the trick you mentioned, you know, with the fingers. Thanks.
Yeah, she didn't like that. But
Good.
she deserved it.
It's like a verbal smack in the face.
Yeah.
Cat definitely deserves that.
Yes.
And then Sawyer's like, we could kill her. And he's probably thinking about it as well. It's like, they're still struggling to channel. We're like, let's get them while they're weak.
Yeah.
And they all go silent. She's like, oh, we can't because they're in our squad. And that is the only reason they can think of not to kill Cat.
Okay. So after that, they have to go to the library when Sawyer starts to practice sign language with Yesenia. And Violet is talking about that she needs somebody that is able to speak Croblish because she needs help with those books they get from the Carros. And then when we have somebody else coming to the rescue.
Enter Damp Dain. Why can he speak Crovelish?
He's really good with languages, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think maybe it's just because he's coming from a privileged house or his father being a colonel, he'd been maybe only child. He'd been more like expecting more stuff from him. So he has to learn more, be more.
Was his mum from Poromil?
Don't remember anything about
You've
it.
not said anything about her.
There's not many reference about
No.
his mother.
If
isn't
it was only Crovish that he spoke, I would think, yeah, that could be it. You know, you're bilingual.
Mm-hmm.
But he also speaks Old Lucerish, and he also is really quick with language. He speaks Moranian, does he? No.
No.
It's only
Yesenia,
Yesenia
the
that speaks
only one.
Moranian. There's a reason why he's good at it, and it's either because of his past or because of his future, because that's got to be part of the plot, hasn't it? The Crovelish thing feels like it could be part of his past, because there's no reason... Brennan speaks Crovelish as well.
Yeah.
But there's very little reason why you would be, unless he learned it as later on in life, because he is he's basically an interrogator. He's got to be able to understand the memories he's taking, potentially from Crovelish speaking people. Mm-hmm. So perhaps he learned it he needed to learn it because of his role in the army.
Translate the memory that he got it.
Yeah. The thing about the fact that he speaks Old Lucerish, for me, is there's too many mentions of the fact that Old Lucerish is monosyllabic language, where it's like basically pictures. Yeah. And runes is also that. So I think we're going to have to watch out for Dain's ability with runes. He's probably going to be really good at it.
I think there's going to be like something that he's going to be really good.
He's a natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not testing his squad. He's a wing leader, isn't he? So is he learning runes? Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, should be, but I'm guessing that it's going to be maybe like a win leader class or something like this when they will show other stuff.
Yeah. We're overthinking this. What I thought was interesting about the library was that Violet they said, what are we doing here? And she said, finding my centre. And that's interesting because we've talked in the past about whether she'll need to rebuild her grounding location in her mind because the archives is just too shaky. The foundations have gone because it's built on the lies that Navarre have told. And I wonder if spending more and more time in the library will mean that she can find that center, that grounding spot, and she's determined to fill the shelves with books.
I don't know if it's constantly or she's just like doing stuff just because it feels good. But I think she is trying to find that new place when she feels peace, that she feels at home, because the archives is not that anymore.
No. I feel like she feels like that in Xaden's bedroom, though. Because whenever she's in there, it seems like she's home. So, Violet and Dain are translating. It flips a bit here, because she's brought him in to translate the books, which I think are the books that we get from a few of the epigraphs around this part of the book, but they end up translating Warwick's journal instead. So it's weird. Violet's opinion of Dain is a bit contradictory in this scene because she says, I need your help. He nods without waiting for an explanation. And just like that, I remember why he used to be one of my favourite people on the continent. Then there's still she can't forgive him. So she's obviously conflicted inside about whether she trusts him or she doesn't trust him. That's quite clear. But she remembers. She has some.
It's too many years being best friends to forget everything just like that, just for one act.
Yeah, but it was an unforgivable act.
Yes, but still, so many years, so many good memories. That's just it's not something that you can just forget, just easy.
Yeah.
Imogen is there helping you.
Yeah. And they have this conversation, and he tries to explain why he did what he did. And he said, you hated me for trying to give you what you told me you always wanted, going back into the scribe quadrant. She said that's not why she hated him. He wouldn't let her grow. And they have this interesting conversation about whether they're the same people that crossed the parapet, and they both come to the conclusion that they've changed. The Riders Quadrant has changed them. Mm-hmm. And she asks, did you steal my memories every time you touched my face last year? So there's an awkward silence, and he doesn't immediately answer. And this is really awkward because you think he's about to say, yes, I did, or maybe he wouldn't admit it, or maybe he's trying to work out whether to lie. But I actually have a theory, and I will die on this hill. Dain does not have to touch people's faces to read their memories. Perhaps he did at first, and his signet got stronger, because there's two ways that his signet could get stronger. He could go further and further back into people's memories, so it's not just recent memories anymore. Or he could be able to do it from a distance without touching people's faces. Mm-hmm. He might have never had to touch someone's face, but he thought that if he let onto that, he would be executed, because that makes you a mind reader, or that makes you full intrinsic, potentially. If people couldn't, I don't know, but I suspect that Dain possibly had to at first, but he doesn't anymore. And the evidence for me comes for that back in Fourth Wing, when they are outside the battle brief room after the night after the first kiss between Violet and Xaden. Violet says, it's complicated between us. Then she says, images of last night flood my mind, from Xaden's first smile to that last brush of his lips, and I shove them away. Dain flinches. You trust him more than you trust me. It's not an accusation, but it stings all the same. When Dain reads Violet's memories in the interrogation scene, it's like the images are flashing to the front of she's trying to push them to the front of her mind. I think he's reading her memories, and he realizes with the kiss that there's something more to Violet and Xaden. Mm-hmm. And he didn't touch her face then, but I am sure he read her memories at that point.
For me, definitely he's lying about his signet, because officially he need to touch the temples to get the memories. But when he actually said that he stole Violet's memory, he wasn't touching the temple, he wasn't touching the face. He's always
cupping the cheek.
Cupping the cheek.
Can I just try and cup your cheek to see if I touch? Yeah, I touch your temples. If I cup your cheek, I think I touch.
Maybe if I had really big hands.
No, well, I don't have big hands. I do agree with you. Well, I totally think he's lying about his signet.
Yeah.
I think he's scared he'll be executed for being intrinsic, so he's lying.
Yeah, I think we talk about this by the days of Fourth Wing when we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Then maybe this is just the beginning to be an intrinsic, but we didn't discuss at that time that maybe he can do a lot of stuff already, but he's just pretending so he doesn't get into trouble. If he can say that he doesn't need to touch anybody to read the memories.
Yeah. What's so dangerous about an intrinsic? You can't control them. An intrinsic that has to physically touch you. If you're leadership, you can prevent that from happening.
Yes.
But if you don't know they're doing it and they're just there in the crowd reading your recent memories, that is far more dangerous to Navarre. So I genuinely do not believe he has to touch her face.
I think eventually we will come to find out more stuff about Dain's signet. There's something definitely going on with this.
Yeah. Okay, so he figures it out. The translation.
Here's the first one to say it's not rain. Doesn't say it's flame, but he say it's not rain. So he get it first. And then he's asking to Violet, where are your notes from the beginning of the translation? And the Violet said, no, I just skip it. I went straight away when everyone talking about the words, so I just started doing that. And then he was shocked because he knows very well Violet, and that is not Violet behavior. Because even he was saying, you, the one who need to like consume books from beginning to end, skip it. So I think maybe this is just like sort of like reminder that Violet is still not being like herself. That everything that she is or she does is right now changing.
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it? That you'd skip to the wards bit first, try and translate it, but if you couldn't find it, you would go back again.
Yeah.
And she's like, I failed. There's not much more I can do. There's nothing more else I can do. I can just try again. But not at all thinking about reading straight from the beginning.
I believe when they start to talk about a little bit, was Violet the one who asking like, well, once you stop listening to me, and then it's when he started to say probably in my conscription day, because after that the only thing that he was doing is just surviving,
blindly following the codex.
Yeah, but I think maybe you start to see kind of like background here. Like Dain, he is just surviving the first year as a cadet. He has to survive all the tests, bonding with the dragon, surviving the dragons, surviving all the stuff that's just made to kill you. He see constantly friends that he's made just being the death roll. And then when finally he finished the first year, and the second year he know that he can go to other squads. So he thought that he was gonna be able to see Violet with the scries. He sees her coming as a rider, and then he knows that she has to go through all of that he just passed. And then he was like, shit, she's gonna die.
Or she's going to figure stuff out, depending on which side of the camp you're on.
That's another thing that, since Lani mentioned that theory, I can't see it now. Because they were talking about, okay, so Violet saying, okay, so your last word for me was like goodbye. But in conscription day, in my conscription day, your first word for me was hello. No, and then you were like, no, actually, I think you say like, what the hell are you doing here? Or something like this. He said, yeah, it's because I was so pissed and so scared for you being there. And I was like,
no, you're freaking out.
Yeah, maybe because she will find out something about him.
Yeah. He does say, though, I fucked up and trusted my dad when I should have trusted your judgment. And this is a big part of how Rebecca Yarros wants us to believe that he is just young. He trusted his dad and he made a mistake. He fucked up like we all do when we're 21. I do think there's a bit of a hint to the fact that he's still not trusting Xaden and he's still not fully believing that Violet is... or he's still not quite good. He says, my father had pretty much bragged about the way your mother cut into him, Xaden. I knew he had to be after revenge, but you wouldn't listen to me. He said, I knew he had to be after revenge, but you wouldn't listen to me. Like he hasn't actually changed his mind. He still thinks that's the case. Then 2 seconds later, when Violet says, but he was never out to kill me, he says, oh, I know that now. But the way that he said... I knew he had to be after revenge, but you wouldn't listen to me. He said, I knew, not I thought he had to be after revenge. Do you see the subtle difference? Yeah. Still feels like Dain isn't 100% behind that. He does talk about the fact that him and Garrick heard his declaration of love in the interrogation chamber. And he said that he might actually be in love with him after that declaration as well.
Yeah, even they fall in love with Xaden.
Yeah. This, I thought for a while, was a bit of a hint to Garrick's signet, but I've completely changed my mind. Okay. Can I take a little bit of a moment to run through some of Garrick's my signet. Thoughts around Garrick's signet?
Okay, go ahead.
There's a couple of options. My number one option today, but ask me tomorrow, I might have changed my mind.
Definitely.
is that he has some kind of signet that allows him to find things, locate things that's needed. But the second one is communicating. The third one is sound seeking, which we know is a thing because Melgren's aide is a sound seeker later in the book. So what I first thought was that Garrick heard this and he seems to hear a lot of things. So I'm going to run first with the third option of sound seeker. And he said Garrick and I heard it at the end. And I was like, Garrick's really good at hearing things. But Garrick was just there. So I have changed my mind on this one. There's also part of my thinking was communicating over long distances. So when they come out of the interrogation chamber, Bodhi isn't there yet. Bodhi will be there soon. Xaden says, and tell Bodhi to track down whatever antidote she and the rest of her squad need. Garrick says he's on it. He doesn't leave. Doesn't leave the room. But how can he be on it if he doesn't leave the room? Yeah. And then there's another bit later that says, I'm just doing my part to help your communication skills thrive in a stable relationship, which is later in this set of chapters. And the fact that he's doing his bit to help communicate might be a subtle hint to Xaden that he's always helping him communicate. So I like this one because Rebecca Yarros did say that when she was asked who she would like to be stuck on a desert island with, it would be Garrick. If you were stuck, stranded, far away from home, you would want some way of communicating across different distance. I also think it fits with the arranging the drops for the flyer, the weapons transfers, because you need some way of having a communication with the flyers, with the drifts. So I do really like this one, but I have looked at every single mention of Garrick, and my number one theory at the moment, like close to the communicating one, is that he is good at finding, or is able to find things. It's like a seeker. So obviously we know about the iron box that Garrick found. I do think that is to do with Crod because his dragon is very sensitive to runes. So I'm not saying necessarily that that's that one, but the dragon's really good at locating runes. He did find the box. Garrick is the one who ultimately gets the crystal egg at War Games. He's the one holding it above his head. So we know that Violet found the outpost, but it could be that Garrick found the egg. Garrick finds the note at Athbine. When we get to the outpost, just before the Battle of Ressen, there is a note that's been left by Colonel Aetos. Garrick is the one, they're looking for stuff, and Garrick is the one that finds the note. There's a bit of a stretch and an assumption here, but also in the Battle of Ressen, Garrick says, we need to get the townspeople to whatever safe space we can find. And he could have been the one that finds that safe space. They take them to the mines, or a cave in the mountains. I think it's clear that Garrick doesn't have an offensive signet because he and Soleil are doing recon around while the others are going to fight the Venin. He's not got an obvious attack. Otherwise, he would be one of the ones that was
defend the people.
Yeah. And again, who would you want on a desert island? You'd want someone that could find things, find food, find shelter, find the way home. Maybe he can find things. So between that and communicating, they're my top two. We don't know that either of those things are actually a signet, but I think they could quite easily be. There's another couple of things that I hear quite a lot. I hear that Garrick is our distance wielder. If he's a distance wielder, I need an explanation of why Xaden would have said when Violet was guessing his second signet, why would Xaden have said there hasn't been a distance wielder for years? And he also said he hasn't lied to Violet. So both of those can't be true if he knows that Garrick is a distance wielder.
Yeah.
Although it's a really popular one, Auric is our distance wielder, isn't he?
Yeah, that's one of the one that we think.
Yeah.
Because we start to see that maybe with the blue dragons and people that like nobility, they have maybe like a really good chemistry. And then that means a good signet as well. So I think Eric will be the one who will get like something that is not very common.
Yeah, and like deep within his core, he needs to put distance between himself and his father. And
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing.
yeah. Anyway, sorry. I got a couple more things to say. Crod means pain and torture, spelt slightly different in Scottish Gaelic. There's no evidence for this within the text, apart from the fact that Garrick is really sensitive. So he's like this big tough guy, but he's always the one asking Violet how she is. He's always the one kind of picking up on emotions. Under the tree, he's the one that said, we don't punish children for their parents' actions. That is the Navarian way. We are Tirish. We don't do that. There's several things where he's the nice guy. If you have chronic pain and you needed to be stranded on a desert island, having someone that could take away pain might be really helpful. He seems to be sensitive to how people are feeling. Perhaps he can do something like that. There's very little evidence, but it's apart from, we know that day means ice, and we know that Liam somehow has some kind of second signet that has ice. We know that Sigale means shadow. We know that Ten
means
thunder.
Where it comes after lightning, thunder.
Yeah, we know that Marb means dead body.
Yeah.
So there are clues in dragons' names, so potentially that could be one. The other things that we know about Garrick, which are kind of just interesting. So he's the first to defend Violet under the tree and say, we don't punish her. But he also defends her after the gauntlet when Amber Mavis accuses her of cheating.
Yeah.
And he like jumps right in and he's like, no, I'm not having that, even though her mum executed his parent. So just a few things we know about Garrick, but my number one is finding things. My number two is communicating over long distances, and they keep swapping every day. So linked to the communicating one, the other potential is a sound seeker. A sound seeker is someone that can hear things over great distance. We get an offhand mention of Melgrin's aide later on, who is a sound seeker who can do that. And they're talking, when Violet is trying to guess Xaden's second signet, she says, there isn't anyone capable of hearing this far because, like, Melgrin's aide or whatever. There is a weird moment which Kelly, one of our listeners, I was chatting to her about, and I got so excited because I was like, oh my God, we've cracked it. And then I did some research and I found some different ideas. But the Sound Seeker one is really cool. There is a moment in Fourth Wing just before the squad battle, the final war games, where Violet and Xaden are in Xaden's room. The door is closed. We are assuming that Xaden has soundproofed his own room. We know that he can do that. Why wouldn't he have soundproofed his own room? Garrick can hear him through the door.
Yeah.
There's no way that he should be able to hear him through the door.
True. That's something that I was about to mention. For me, the one about Garrick would be something about communication or hearing, just because that moment. We are just assuming that, yes, in this case, Xaden Rowan will be exactly the same as Violet. They has words, so nobody can go in without his permission. And soundproof as well, because that eventually Violet is going to be there as well, and they will be messy with the sickness and with everything. But if you read that scene, he is in bed with Violet, and Garrick is the one that is interrupted. And Xaden is having a conversation with him through the door.
Has Garrick somehow put a hearing rune inside the room? They're gonna runes these tears. No, I like the idea of a sound seeker as well, because we know that is a thing from what Melgren's aid does.
Yeah, for me, that and what Rebecca Yarrow said that if she has to go to like desert island, would be like the most useful to go with. She said Garrick. I think that would be more useful there, finder, because if you're in a desert island where it's desert, there's nothing. What can you find? Nothing. There's no food, there's nothing. So if there's nothing there, there's nothing that you can find.
Yeah, well, how would hearing help? Like communicating over distance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can say, I don't know if telepathy or something like this, that you think about somebody and then you start to talk like you do with the dragons, but with people.
Yeah, I've already changed my mind again. That's number 1 again. Can we just no now, please?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Anything else to say about this chapter or chapter 50?
Only the nod to Jacinia knowing Moranian, which will later help with Lyra's journal.
Yeah.
That's all. Chapter 50.
Chapter 50.
Mastery of one's signet does not occur at Basgiath, nor in the years directly after. No rider alive truly believes they've reached the limitations of their power. The dead ones may feel differently. Major Offrender's Guide to the Rider's Quadrant, unauthorized edition.
That's an interesting one, because you always think that it will be a limit with the signet, that doesn't matter how strong you turn it eventually. It's like body. You can do a lot of workout, you can get really strong, but you are limited. You will reach the point that you can't give more than that. But here they kind of saying that if you like keep practicing and you keep like training, you have no limitations.
Yeah. So I think it's obviously supposed to be Violet's power. She's mastering it. She's mastering the control. But don't you think this is really suspicious? A couple of pages after Violet is asking Dain whether he read her mind every time he touched her face. It smacks of your power getting better. It's just more evidence to me that Dain doesn't have to have to touch her face. It's cool to think about how a rider's signets will evolve as well, because we know Rhiannon couldn't summon things through walls, but she can now. We know Mira couldn't create her own wards, although it does say that she can't create her own wards without extreme emotional stress, which she was under extreme emotional stress at that point, so it's fine.
Oh, I think the other one that's interesting about this is it's Queen, that she can astral project in the beginning. She can do it just by herself, but eventually she was able to do it with anybody. You can change her own shape. Yeah. So I don't know what else you can do as well.
Yeah, so it's just really interesting to think about how our riders' signets will evolve. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we've said this so many times about this guide, Major Offrender's Guide to the Rider's Quadrant. Why is it an unauthorized edition? Who gave her that?
It's weird, because it's like you start to build like so many stuff, like you building a proper guide, but then it's like nobody make it official. But at the same time, it's the one that they're studying in Basgiath. So how does it work?
Who is Major Offrender? Yeah, but maybe Violet shouldn't have that. Maybe her dad left it for her or something. She shouldn't have it. It's not the official.
It's like the Brennan Boba.
Yeah.
And somebody else.
Who is Major Offrender? So, too many late nights have been spent translating Warwick's journal from the beginning. Too many lunches have been eaten in that cold wardstone chamber. And Violet has definitely spent too much time with Dain. It is not fair how we don't get this time to see if Dain has truly changed. We just have a big skip of time. Mm-hmm. We don't get to spend that too much time translating Warwick's journal, too many lunches. We don't see Dain's redemption. And I think we see a lot of it. We see how he is at the end, but and we see what he says to her when we have dialogue on the page. But I think this might be why so many people are still not getting Dain's redemption arc, because we miss out on this time that Violet gets with him. That obviously means she trusts him.
Rebuilding that bonding they had like long time ago.
Yeah. Another mention of how she'd almost forgotten how good he really is with languages.
It's gonna be interesting what it's gonna be he able to do with drums as well,
Yeah.
and what is gonna be their use. If it's gonna be for good or for bad.
Yeah, we need to do a poll. Where are you at the moment with Dain? You can't get Lanny's theory out of your head. Do you think he's bad?
For me, there's no middle term with Dain. He's gonna be really good, and he's going to make us cry with his dad, or he's gonna be really bad, and then we're going to even hate her more than Colonel Aetos. So it's just gonna be one extreme to another one.
So there's a really good conversation going on in our reel about Kath at the moment, and how we don't trust Kath because she's got stinky breath and she knows that there's 4 wyvern. There's speculation among quite a few of our listeners that Dain is being mind controlled. So Random and Thoughtful has this amazing theory. Sorry, I should say at Random and Thoughtful on Instagram, that Daddy Aetos is controlling Dain through mind control. That's his signet. And I really like it as a theory. I tend to think now that perhaps he's being mind controlled occasionally by Kath, and potentially Kath's previous bonded rider. Now that Jen, another listener, put that into my head, I'm obsessed with that one. So apparently, if you read some of Dain's like key moments through the lens of him being mind controlled, which we'll have to do from now on, and maybe go back to the interrogation scene and reread that
with this point of view.
Yeah. That he sometimes the things he says doesn't necessarily follow on from the previous dialogue, like he's having a conversation in his head. Like that when he says no to Varish in the interrogation chamber, he could be saying no to the mind control that is supposed to be happening, and he's kind of breaking free. I like that, although it kind of does excuse a lot of what he's doing, because he's essentially like under the Imperious curse, isn't he?
Harry Potter reference.
Yeah. You should have been.
It took us a while.
Yeah, nearly an hour in, and it's taken. But my theory about Dain is that he is ultimately a good person. He's either being mind controlled, like a lot of our listeners speculate, or Rebecca could be right. He just listened to his dad. He's basically been brainwashed from a very young child.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have the mother of all redemption arcs. I think Kath is bad, and I think that Dain is going to have to slay his own dragon to save Xaden's life.
That would be like the ultimate redemption. Yeah.
He's going to die to save Xaden. Not Violet, that's too obvious, but he's going to choose Xaden and Violet's kind of happiness over his own life.
For me, the problem that I have about Dain could be a good person. That, you should forgive him because, poor little boy and that kind of stuff. It's because I see like Rebecca Yarros really invested. And like, but come on, he's just 20, 21.
She's trolling us, come on.
Yeah, so I don't trust Rebecca Yarros as an author. I start to see that maybe if I in her place, I start to see that maybe people are kind of like, they're going to the direction that I want to take them by surprise or whatever. I had to say something. I had to do something.
No, I don't. I don't.
So she's like, come on, guys. He's a good boy. He just didn't trust. He trusts his dad, and his dad's a bad person. The dad deserves the award, not him. And then, that was the master.
They're buying it. But we're not buying it.
He was the one who was like controlling his own dad.
This is so good. It's like the speculation on whether Snape was a good guy or a bad guy.
Yeah, that you don't know until the last minute, and then like...
No, but there are so many clues. If you read it again, I guess, but you can read it both ways, can't you? And you can see.
Yeah, you know that as a writer, you need to give it like a fake path or some red herrings, and then by the end, you don't know which road you got to talk.
Yeah. That's really interesting because I'm on the side where I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to have the ultimate redemption. She's going to make us... Dain's not making it out of this series alive, right? We agree on that.
Yeah.
So Rebecca has this amazing talent to make you fall in love just before she tears your heart out. And I think that slaying his own dragon would definitely do that. Imagine the drama.
That he die in slow emotion after saving Xaden.
He just has enough time to like say the right things to Violet to get her to forgive him forever, to the point where she names her children after him.
Dain Ryerson.
Whatever daddy's name, Daxton Dain Ryerson.
So should we go to the training with Felix?
Yeah.
She's still not hitting the target, but it's managing to reduce the power to try to control it better. So Felix gets close to asking with an orb that she needs to hit it. So it's just so the point I see is like a little lightning just connecting with this little orb. And then she's putting like full attention to the Arca's door. So she's just like opening enough to release enough power just to keep it going. Not to make it more powerful, just to hold it. And he started to walk backwards. So trying to push in the limits until she comes to the point that she can control it, because it's Terran's power. So it's a lot of power that she needs to manage through those doors until she loses control and then lightning. And Felix Dragon is like complaining and Terran is basically laughing.
Yeah. I like Felix here because he's pushing her. He's saying, and he's also joking with her. So he's like, strike the conduit. She's like, I'll kill you. And he says, yeah, if only you could aim. He's quite funny.
Yeah.
It's quite cool though, isn't it? How she's extending the power from her fingertip. There's 5 strands of power and they're getting longer and longer and longer. Mm-hmm. It's quite cool.
But he comes with this like really good theory as well that right now her power is more like a battle axe. There's just one powerful strike that goes to like destroy everything. When sometimes the only thing that she needs is just like a dagger.
So there's some like little tidbits in this chapter where Tern says, I chose you and dragons make no mistakes. And this was after she says she's scared of herself. We know that dragons make mistakes.
Tern is the one that makes no mistakes.
But he says dragons make no mistakes. But what about the ones that do, like Bade, Solus, Kath? Dragons make mistakes. What other mistakes do they make? If we know that some of them do.
If, spoiler alert from Iron Flame, obviously, Sagel, she was wrong with Xaden because he turned on Venin. He didn't like question about being a Venin.
She wasn't wrong.
But she was like,
he turned for love.
You.
He turned for love. She might think she chose wrong, like for a little period, but she'll realize that everything's going to be fine because I refuse to believe that everything will not be fine.
Obviously, Ternway and Nowlin. Nowlin, we think that something happened with him trying to bring back Brennan up to life. Mm-hmm. So he sacrificed himself, and I'm sure that that's not something that Tern was agree.
Yeah.
Because that could kill him as well. That is a mistake from his part. Like, it's just a rider that doesn't look after his own dragon.
Sigel and Tan are really good at bonding people that fall in love and do sacrifices for love. When you get back to the house, tell Ryerson we'll need both of you in the assembly chamber at 5:00.
Yeah.
Why?
So she didn't even realize they said was back.
No, but why were they needed in the assembly chamber at 5:00? What was going to happen? Because they never actually go, or at least we don't see it, because they're distracted by the fact that Pavis is down.
The thing that we didn't see it is that they need to like have a look what they're going to do, because Violet is the one who's working on the wards, but the Venin are just one step closer.
Yeah, but Felix doesn't know that yet.
That's why I think they need to talk with Violet. Like, what is the current situation with the walls? What is your progress? Are we going to have war before? I don't know.
Next
week?
You think it's going to be like a
just like something like this.
Yeah, like a briefing.
That's what I think. Doesn't mean this, right? But then she's like, what? Xaden is here? So she started looking through the bone. She noticed there's something wrong. She tells to Xaden through the bone, and then she asks, like, is everything okay? And Xaden says, no.
Nothing else. Oh my God, it's like you when I text you and you're like, something bad's happened. And then I wait. And then I'm like, what? And then you say, it's bad. And then I'm like, are you going to tell me what it is? And then you're like, something to do with me. And then you won't believe it. And then ... You know, just tell the story. I'm really bad for sending lots of messages when I should just send one. But you are really slow at telling stories, especially when they're like really important.
I'm a storyteller. I need to just
keep
the people hooked, you know?
Yeah, but not your wife. When you say something bad has happened, I'm like, right, on the way to the hospital. And you're like, oh no, nothing. I just forgot to buy milk. So she goes back to Ryerson House. Who does she bump into?
Garrick, Body, and Heaton.
And you know what I'm going to say about Heaton? I said this last week, but I'm going to say it again. Why does Heaton need to breathe underwater? We have not seen evidence yet of why they need to breathe underwater, but they do.
So strange, because in this mission, they had to go, I don't know if they were flying like around the sea or something like this, but they need Heaton.
No, they just need Heaton because they need everyone.
Like I said, don't say you need like balance between signets and somebody that can breathe under the water and a dragon and the middle of the city. It's not like really useful, I think.
Well, there's got to be something, and I'm going to say it every single week until one of our listeners gives me a clue, because you're all so good at thinking of reasons why people need particular things. And nobody has told me since last week. So I'm going to keep mentioning it every single week.
Until I get
until somebody comes up with an idea of why Heaton needs to breathe underwater.
But Heaton is there, injured, has
giant contusion
on the
half their face.
And the arm as well is splint from the elbow down.
Heaton's not had a great day.
No.
But neither has the city of Pavis.
Pavis has been full, and it told us a few Venin and an ortho wyvern.
Mm-hmm. Mira's survived. She's all right. She's taking Emery to the healers for a shattered leg. Emery is an air wielder, remember?
Yeah.
From the same squad, but graduated the same year as Xaden.
Mm-hmm.
Emery's not had a great day either. A shattered leg. It made me think of Sawyer, but then I remembered Sawyer's leg is like bitten off. So a mender. I'm not sure why Emery was taken to the healers and not Brennan, which feels a bit weird, doesn't it? But at least we have confirmation that there are healers in Erasure, because we only had confirmation that in terms of cadets, 2 scribes and the rest were riders. And they didn't seem to bring any healer cadets with them from Basgaiath, but it does appear that there are healers in Erasure, whether they're in the town, like there's a doctor in most towns, all towns. Perhaps it's that.
One of the things that caught my attention from this scene is when Violet asked, did they take Corden as well?
They skipped right over it and hundreds of other miles.
Yes. What can we think about this? Is this deal with Tikaros and the Venin still going? Or it's just because they see there is a new hatchling ground, there's more
It's
tempting.
not on the strategic route. I think it's the first one. I don't like Tikaros at all. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. He makes deals with people to get what he wants. He's captured. We know he knows how to capture, or his nephew, we think, knows how to capture Venin. I think he's done a deal with the Venin to deliberately avoid Corden. He says as much. He says the flyers don't want to stay in Corden where they're safe. They don't want to be safe. They want to be fighting for the continent. Mm-hmm. How would he know that he was safe in Corden? Why would he have this completely indefensible palace with its white, beautiful Grecian columns and the cascading fountains and his butterfly garden if he thought there was any risk of being attacked?
And it's obviously all the collection that he had, because he is somebody that likes to collect really weird things, people as well. So if he's not completely convinced that he's not going to lose this, or the Venin or the Wyvern that will come to the palace to destroy everything, I think he will do like some measurements about it, but he's not. He's just chilling out there, enjoying the view and cleaning the teeth because they're really white apparently.
So I don't trust him, but we find the chapter ends on quite a dramatic note, doesn't it? They're coming for us.
That is like the thing that you should, or you're supposed to think that they skip Corden is just because they're going for the hatching ground, which they do in the end. But I think that, there's more stuff going on there.
Yeah, he's done a deal.
Yeah.
He's reminds me of a kind of Satan figure where you do a deal with him, you sell your soul to...
Yeah. Okay.
Chapter 51. Many of our most esteemed tacticians have tried to estimate the approaching tipping point where the outcome of the war may have been decided, even though we still fight. Many believe it will come in the next decade. I fear it will arrive much sooner than that. Captain Lyra Durrell's Guide to Vanquishing the Venin, property of Cliffsbane Academy. So we think this is one of the books that Takaris has sent over. They keep saying Brennan is a great strategist and the tactician, and they're trying to estimate the tipping point. And the tipping point of when you can no longer win the war is different to when you believe they're going to be at your doorstep. We know that Brennan is estimating a far shorter time frame than the other people, and he is more correct in the end. There's not much to say about this epigraph, though, I don't think.
I think this epigraph is just giving like some information about the books and the flyers to like open a little bit more this world, but I don't see that it's giving us like that more information for future or any clues.
No, the only thing is the tipping point, because Xaden does say later in this chapter that he thinks we're 50 years too late, and I'm sure we've got some things to say about that.
Yes.
But perhaps it's making you focus, you're supposed to focus in on that clue there, that we're 50 years too late because the tipping point has already happened. Mm-hmm. And what was that tipping point? And perhaps that happened 50 years ago. But we'll get, I feel like it could be a pay attention, because somebody in this chapter is going to predict that tipping point, and that person is Xaden. Mm-hmm. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. So Wiley goes to find Xaden.
She swings by the kitchen first, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's going to give us some chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake. Do you remember when we learnt that Xaden's favourite food was chocolate cake?
Yeah. She still remember.
When she was rapid firing random questions at him when she'd just worked out how to talk down the pond.
Yeah, I think it was when Mira said that you are in love with him, but you don't know anything about him, and then she started to like.
Yeah, when they're back
true.
in Battlebury, she's like, "What's your favorite food? Chocolate cake. Pay attention."
Once she see where he is, then she said that, well, now I know why you're so good in parapet, because it doesn't have shadows or anything to protect him. He's just there.
He's been practicing since he was a kid.
But she's given the chocolate cake when they were talking, and he is clearly affected about what happened on Pavis. Pavel said that Taryn didn't tell her anything. He says Sagael somehow blocking him out. Mm-hmm. So what exactly does it mean with somehow? What did Sagael do to do this?
I know she's just very good at shielding, obviously. But somehow is a weird word, you're right. Yeah. I had a question about this, and I don't know if we've talked about it before. We probably have. But when they're blocked out, that means that Xaden's got no power, right? So if he did fall, there's no shadows there. The only shadows are the ones that are like natural shadows.
Mm-hmm.
If he did fall, or if Violet did fall right now, Sigil's blocking him out. He wouldn't be able to save her.
I don't know if there's a difference between power and then mentally bond, or if everything comes from the same door.
It seems like physical, doesn't it? Where you have to be able to channel. And she says when Ten's sleeping, there's no power there. She can't pull from it if it's not there. That's my assumption, but I could be wrong.
It's interesting because, you know, a little bit Violet, every time when she wants to wilding, she's like opening the doors slowly so the power comes to her, and then she's like getting the power through maybe the tattoo in the back.
But there's no power.
Yes, so that's interesting. But you know, like when Xaden, he just do the shadows like so quick, so like natural. He's doing this process as well,
It's
but
because
just really quick.
Yeah, because Sigil's awake at that time. If she was asleep, or if she was, but
what I mean is that he need to open the doors to get the power, and then he's able to.
Yeah, but if there's no power, if they're shielding,
the sword is not there. Yeah, they can't get it. I don't know if I will find out at some point that maybe they need to use the signet, but they can't because the dragon is not valuable.
Yeah. He's saying that it's too hard. They can't communicate fast enough. That just goes to show the advantage they have when Violet and Xaden are fighting together, because they can communicate mind to mind. And it feels like it's a thing. Isn't it weird how Ten is the strongest dragon, the most powerful dragon, the strongest fighter, the fastest flyer in Erasure, and he's stuck because Violet's in classes. Violet is the most powerful rider. She's learning to control her signet. Surely she should just be like full-time working with Felix until she can join, and she doesn't have to graduate because they need her to fight the war. She's the only one. She took down 4 wyvern the other day, and now she's in history class. It doesn't make sense, does it?
She needs the full preparation as a rider, because not just only controlling the power, it's about what you learn as well for tactics or anything. So the preparation is key. Assuming. But when you're in this kind of situation where you see that the enemy is right there in your door, you should be able just to prioritize like your best weapon. And she is the best weapon for this.
She's the only weapon. She is the weapon. He says they can take the rest of Poromil, take us whenever they want it, and I have no clue why they don't. We have no idea how many of them are assembling in Zulya, or where the fuck all these wyvern are hatching from. There's no plan except hold the line, and the line isn't holding. So this, to me, smacks of needing someone on the inside. Theory. Will Xaden go undercover?
He will go full Venin just to see how it goes or
be
how
a
it works.
spy.
They will know, I think, because Venin, they share like knowledge and stuff.
They don't. There's this misconception, and I make mistakes all the time, so I get it. But there is this misconception that Venin share a hive mind, and there's a collective consciousness.
No,
but
it's not all of them.
It's just the Venin and the wyvern they create, I think. The only confirmation we have of that is, I think, but again, people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that when they're climbing the cliffs of Draelor, we find out that the Venin and the wyvern they create can share a consciousness.
Yeah, so then is saying the things about it was really bad. They just imagine reason about 10 times bigger and worse. And he thinks they are outmatched.
Yeah, he'll never say this in front of the others, but we're 50 years too late.
Again, 50 years.
We had 50
late.
years in the last episode as well, didn't we?
Yeah. What happened? 50 years.
Xaden's granddad supposedly died.
Yes. Do we have more reference about that time? Maybe we need to have a look in the year.
Yeah, we need to go back. Carly has this theory that one of the Venin is Xaden's granddad. I didn't believe it before because of all the references to I've waited centuries for you, join me. It's a different one. And I do, like, the more I read in this read through, the more hints we're getting that something isn't quite right with what happened 50 years ago. They're 50 years too late. Is that because something changed when Xaden's granddad chose to be a Venin? Was that why Sigale was so angry? Because she was like, no, it's happened again. I should have known. Is she pissed off with herself for bonding another Ryerson who turned Venin? I don't know. There's something, isn't there, that happened 50 years ago. What is it?
I don't think we discovered it by the end of the book, so all the events happens, but we're still not knowing like exactly why they're referring always 50 years late or 50 years ago.
One thing's for sure. I don't think Xaden's granddad is the general because of all these references to a long time ago. It just can't be. But there's no reason why it isn't the other Venin, one of the sages.
Completely agree. There is a possibility, but I don't know about these people just turning Venin and then everyone is just Venin.
Everyone's a Venin, I know.
Yeah.
At this point, we're like, he's a Venin, and you're a Venin. And you know, like Oprah Winfrey, you win a car, and you win a car. You lose your soul, and you lose your soul, and you lose your soul.
Yes, it's pretty much how it feels. Like, oh, come on, just give me a better plot or something.
No,
Yeah,
at this point, I'm like, everyone's, well, like, fair game. Everyone can be a Venin.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
Bad guys of Venin.
The world isn't split into good people and Venin.
Yeah. Violet, you just tell him that she's working in the world with Dain, and so far they found out the first relation is wrong. So I guess that's a little hope for Xaden. That, okay, so at least we know that something went wrong the first time, so maybe this time it can work. But he's still pissed, and it's more because he nearly died against a Venin, and Mira saved him. And after that, he called it a loss because she didn't want to lose Violet if something happens to Xaden. He didn't like him. She feel like the weak link.
I think he read Mira's intentions here as well. I think she said, she said, you don't know that, you can't know that. And he's like...
No, Violet said, did she tell you that?
Yeah.
No, she didn't, but it was pretty obvious. They're like,
yeah.
Oh, well, then you don't know. Trust me.
Yeah, I know. It must be frustrating for both of them, really, because they are treated as a vulnerable extension of the other. But it's kind of fair. When you're in a military operation, you can't pull someone off just because you don't. I don't know, maybe you can. You could probably justify it in Violet's case as well, because she is literally the one thing that's going to vanquish the Venin.
Obviously, losing Xaden and losing Violet at the same time. So it's better lose a battle than lose the war.
Yeah.
I guess that's how I see it from Mira.
Yeah. So there's one thing, like an example of Rebecca Yarros putting unfinished business everywhere. I had killed one of them and I was retrieving my dagger. Another problem I might add. She either interrupts him or he gets sidetracked because he's like, that's another problem for another day. Is this where he's realizing that the daggers lose power? So you can only use them so many times against a Venin. And then you have to re-imbue them. We learned that in the extract, in the new extract from Onyx Storm, which was in the Cosmo magazine. I feel like that's just unfinished business that she didn't tie up. And then we learned it in Onyx Storm. It's just an example of all these things that are like just lying around waiting to be big clues for stuff. We'd never have got it. But yeah, the other thing makes me think of Rihanna. She can retrieve. So is she going to be the key to retrieving all these daggers? Because he had to go and get it. Is she going to be the one that like allows them to stay in place when she pulls the daggers back?
I mean, that would be like a good strategy. Just throw it and then just you have Rihanna there to recover that.
Boomerang. Boomerang daggers. Boomer daggers. Boomerangers.
Boomerangers. So like a Japanese dish or something like that. From one of my wives.
Yum. So just as they're finishing that conversation about how annoying it is, Violet understands because they're tethered. He kisses her quiet, hard and quick. for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
How long are going to be those lives?
So long. They're going to live happily ever after. It's all going to be fine. Move on.
Okay. So, Violet goes back to translate the books with Dain as fast as they can, because now she feels the pressure. And Dain noticed that everything else with the journal is pretty clear, except the part of the words. The part is in the worry, like he's deliberately fucking us from the grave.
He is doing precisely that.
Yes. That is the big question. Why Worry didn't want words? It's because he was just selfish. He didn't want, like the other province had the knowledge to build their own words. Even when maybe he knew that they can't be done anymore because they don't have the 1, 6 and the 1.
Yeah.
There were no more ones. So what's the point to just like, I just going to fuck it out with this so nobody can do it, even when they can't. Anyway.
He wasn't actually he was being cryptic, but he wasn't lying about it. It is the 6 and the 1. He could have said 7. Lyra says 7. But I wonder, I've said this before, but I think it was possibly a similar situation where that dragon was bonded to the same rider as one of the others. So the 7th Den dragon was also bonded to Lyra. I think it was Lyra. We only know Warwick and Lyra, right?
Yeah.
We don't know any more apart from General Darramore.
No, one of the 6, but from that age.
We don't know. He's one of the 6. I think he could have originally been one of the 6.
I think there's a fight between General Darramore and the 6. So unless there maybe there was always 6 and they were replaced, but there was a battle between Darramore and the 6.
Well, what about if it was a similar situation to Violet and Xaden, where they're a rider, they, instead of burning out, turned Venin and broke the bond, no longer a rider.
Maybe there were just 7 originally, and then Darramore killed all the 7 Den dragon because absorbing the power turned into a Venin, and then they turned into the 6.
Yeah. It does. The thing is, it costs her everything. She could have been in love with this guy. We know that the first 6, it says, Dain says quite like annoyed. It details whatever mess of relationships the 6 of them got into. It said it cost her everything. She could have lost the love of her life, General Darramore. Something is going on. We need more information about the first 6. We will get it from Daddy Soringale's research.
When? We don't know.
No, but we do know that he was researching the first 6 because Lilith Soringale says later, your father told me from his research that Warwick did not want to share the information. He wanted to have the upper hand or something. So we do have confirmation that the research was on the first 6, or at least part of it. I said we have confirmation last time about... we should issue an apology. I did say we have confirmation that Holden, Oric's brother, oldest prince, was infantry. I stand corrected. I was sure I had read that. Turns out I can't find it. I've been frantically searching my Kindle. No evidence at all. So I retract that statement from last week.
Yeah, but that's coming as well from like a really good
logic.
Estimation.
There's logic behind it, but I did say we have confirmation. We didn't. So I'm going to do it again, and I might be issuing another apology next week when I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure we have confirmation that the research is on involves the first 6. Dain gets tired.
He goes to sleep. And Violet last attempt to change the words, change everything, and then change blood for breath. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's getting so cold. It's getting cold enough to see my blood in the mornings. The blood of life. It's the breath of life. It's getting cold enough. And that's the benefit of translating from the beginning. Because you get the same words in a different context. More casual. as Dain calls it.
Yeah.
The first 6 doesn't refer to riders, it refers to dragons.
Yes. And she goes to Ree to tell her that now she knows how to raise the walls, but now she's not sure that they should.
Yeah, Violet always wants to do the right thing, doesn't she? Something about her needing to do the right thing at her core.
Yes, as it turns out, she just wants to do the honorable thing.
Which, interesting, because Andana means second honour in Gaelic. Chapter 52.
Okay, epigraph.
The breath of life of the 6 and the 1 combined and set the stone ablaze in an iron flame. The Journal of Warwick of Lucerus, translated by cadets Violet Sorengale and Dain Aetos. Damp Dain Aetos.
Okay, so they're all in the dining room, flyers and riders. Sawyer is with Yesenia and a blanket near to the fire.
Oh, I know, it's so cute. I really love this bit. But they're in, like, first of all, like, setting the scene, they're actually in Regan's house, Rhiannon's twin sister.
Yes. Well, again, Sawyer is having like a conversation with Yesenia. He like really focused. Violet is trying to just talk with other people, but she is like keep on an eye on Sawyer. And she said, I'm pretty sure that he said that he thinks her turtle is blue.
I'm not getting in the middle of that. Oh, Sawyer.
Yeah, he really is trying, you see.
Oh, I also like, he's not doing it just so that she'll sleep with him. He's doing it because he likes her.
Yeah, I mean, if you put all the effort to learn the language and that kind of stuff, because there's something else, no. Otherwise, we just go, too much effort. I go for somebody can speak my own language, or somebody that has no communications.
Like us when we first met.
Yeah, nah, too difficult.
It's too complicated. I'm not getting involved. I do want to learn a language, but that is actually how we met.
True.
We wanted to learn a different language.
That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah. So something that I wanted to pick up on, which is super minor, but another nod to the fact that we believe that we are supposed to be reading about our own history in our timeline. It's fantasy, and it's very fantasy. I mean, there's dragons, there's griffins, there's magic being channeled from the ground. But some things are very, very similar to our present day, which makes us think that perhaps, and other our listeners have kind of speculated as well, that we are on our own timeline and we're learning about the reason magic does not exist anymore for us, mere mortals. It just says November, now the 1st of December. The months are the same. So it just feels like it's another nod. And I know that this could be an author's device to just show the months, because if you have to rename the months, you've already got complicated names, you've already got complicated places, you've got a new map to memorize. And some books do have an awful lot to learn. I would say, and this isn't a spoiler alert, this is a spoiler-free thing, but I would say When the Moon Hatched is one of those where you have to learn so much about the world, and all the names are very complicated. There's a glossary with the book. You know how when there's a place name, we go back and we look at the map? Well, in When the Moon Hatched, there's a word that you don't recognize. You go back and you check the glossary. So it could be that this is an accessible fantasy book. You can read it if you're not into fantasy books, and you can get into fantasy. It's like, I think people call it a gateway to fantasy. It's quite an easy one.
Yeah.
Whereas something like When the Moon Hatched, like the audiobook, if you are distracted for a minute, you've got to go back and listen. Otherwise you can't get some of the world building. It's an amazing book. I really do like When the Moon Hatched, but it's not like, so you wouldn't have a situation where you've got November and December. So I can't work out if it's just that. But if she didn't want to make those nods, she could have said the months were passing or something. You could still say the months, couldn't you? But
what she did here is that at the beginning of every single book, it said the books have been transcribed by Xaden to modern language. So obviously for the Navarian, November won't be November. November will be like something in Scottish Gaelic.
yeah, that's a really good
and
point.
Then just put in Xaden. Okay, so this for them will be November, like, so they can understand.
That's a really good point. Why didn't I think of that?
But
I've been talking about this for 5 minutes.
no, but the month, the stations that are pretty much the same regardless of the name. Nearly all the laws of physics match with our world, and other stuff like simple stuff like butterflies, bacon, or
Pigs,
there's some fruit that are like
oranges, Jack
yeah.
Bollos.
Yeah, he's allergic to oranges. But yeah, I definitely think that this is gonna be in this timeline.
She nearly gets Auric into trouble. She says his tutoring would only be second to mine, so he's asking if he speaks Old Lucerish.
Yes.
The interesting bit about this statement is not that Auric manages to save himself, which he does, which is very good. But she says his tutoring would only be second to mine, considering Markham was my mentor. This makes so much more sense. For weeks I've been saying, why did Daddy Sorrengail teach her Old Lucerish and not Moranian if Warwick's journal was the one that he knew was useless? Because Lilith Sorrengail says that is in his research. Makes way more sense why Markham would be teaching her the useless one. He doesn't want her to figure it out. He wouldn't have taught her Moranian, which makes me wonder if Jacinia was a mentee of Violet's dad, and he was the one that was teaching her the one that she would need. I still think that it's weird that Daddy Sorrengail didn't teach Violet Moranian when he spent so much time with her. They could have been doing Moranian as well.
Yeah.
But the fact that she says here, Markham was my mentor and my languages, Oryx would only be second to mine, makes so much more sense now why he would teach her the useless one.
Yeah, true. Even if he will be able to teach her like the language that she needs, he can't expect that Violet ever will have any access to those books anyway, because it's supposed to be just the king or somebody that from the same bloodline have access to those journals.
I think he would believe that she could get them.
I mean, there will be like other ways to do it, because remember this girl that she was able to open words.
Was that Nadine?
Yeah, was Nadine. Yes, she's checking with Auric. He doesn't know this. And then Vicia is like, she heard that and she was like wondering why he would know that. And then it's like Violet like, oh shit.
Yeah, but Oryx is super cool. Cool as a cucumber. He's like, you're getting me mixed up with Lynx.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but she just said, she says here, I'd feel better if someone else quadruple checked the translation, someone other than rule following Dain. She doesn't trust him to not immediately tell the assembly and get the wards up.
Once all are gathered there, they are the one to tell them they're being translated. They were Jordan from Warwick, and now Violet, she knows how to build the words in Arasia. But if she does that, then all the flyers will lose the power. So she just wants to give it the opportunity to think if they want to stay under those conditions or going back to Cordon. So Violet, she said she will try to talk with Xaden to give him more time to think about it. At the same time, she's going to talk to Felix to give him more conduct so they have powers as well.
Yeah, so this like fits the theory that we've got that Felix is also a truthsayer and he's going to have a hand in making Violet realize that she is also a truthsayer. Could a truthsayer, when they talk to a truthsayer, can they control themselves? Or do they just like start verbal diarrhea of truth I don't know, because I feel like the fact that she told Felix, it says she trusted him with the truth. But did she have another option? We've suspected this in previous episodes because she just blurts out the fact that Andana stopped time. And that's suspicious, isn't it? And we don't know what Felix's signet is. It could be something to do with metal manipulation. It could be to do with like ingenuity, engineering, something, because he makes these conduits. But actually, she seems to just trust him with the truth all the time.
Yeah, with like really sensible information.
Yeah, and you would imagine that there would be a truthsayer, at least one, in the rebellion, because they're the ones that are going to be able to get the truth. And you could be like Nora, who is not really a truthsayer, like a lie detector. And she can't tell what the actual truth is. She just knows you're lying. So she would be like on edge all the time because she would be able to sense that Markham was lying. So either they'd have to bring her into the fold and tell her and trust that she wouldn't do anything bad, or execute her if she would. So you'd expect that some other people in the rebellion are able to tell those lies, but there's a difference, we think, between Nora, who we think is a lie detector, and truthsayer, who can genuinely get the truth out of people. The way that Felix is treated by Melgren is very bad. Something happened between Melgren and Felix, and we know that the only signet more dangerous to Navarre than an intrinsic is a truthsayer.
Yeah.
So
more terrifying.
More terrifying, yeah. So I just feel like Felix is a truthsayer.
Yeah, I'm getting all the vibes from Felix as well. But
so is Violet. We believe Violet is as well.
Everyone are Venin are truthsayers. That's what I say.
The world is not split into truthsayers or Venin.
But, these conduits caught my attention as well, because from the class from Trisha, when she was like teaching about the runes, now we had these conduits. Something that we'll start learning is that you can give a shape to your power. So, and runes are like, it's considering like the great equalizer between people with magic and people that don't have it. So is it possible maybe that you can put like your signet in one of these conduits or runes or something, and somebody with no magic, no related to dragons or anything, is able to use the signet just because he has this rune or conduit or whatever?
I don't know.
But if I just call it the equalizer, it's because that everyone can have the same. You don't need a dragon. You need just this. Anyone.
Yeah.
The dragons can give it to you.
Well, we know that crystals in Poramil are capable of amplifying lesser magic, because Violet says that as she crosses a parapet. She says, the kingdom of Poramil, known for its blah, 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 its crystals and stuff. We know that the luminary is made of blue crystal, and that's capable of amplifying dragon fire. So it could be that these crystals are imbued with magic from the ground, and that essentially is what they do. This mention of Mayorsight. One of my favourite theories that we have is about the Mairi family being the dad owning the mines, especially in Ressen, where we know that there was a box of explosive material, which I think we now learn is Mayorsight. It's branded with the Mairi family crest, this box that they find in Ressen, which blows up. You really wouldn't put your family crest on something that wasn't official, especially not explosives. If there wasn't a good reason for you to have your name on a box of explosives, you would not put your name on a box of explosives. The only legitimate reason that makes sense, it's next to the mine, is that officially that mine either belongs to the Maoris or they have a business that supplies this Mayorsight stuff. Also, the fact that Liam and Sloane's dad was executed, Violet is quite adamant that the spouses were not killed. There must have been a good reason why he was executed. I believe that he was supplying these crystals potentially from the mine or explosive Mersite
Yeah,
to
he
the
was
drifts.
part of the revolution as well, and somehow, even when he was not right there.
Think he was mining these crystals and supplying them to poor Emil, which would have been a traitorous act, enough to get you executed. The fact that it's also called Mersite, it's very close to Mairi, isn't it?
Well, yeah, when Violet was talking about it, Sloane is the one who smiled, and she recognized exactly what that she's talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, it was exactly the same. There could be this link to the Mairi family, because when you say it, Mersite, it sounds a little bit like Mairi.
Yeah, and there's the family crest on the explosive box and rest, and it's all coming together.
Yeah, that is the end of that part of the chapter. We start with a brand new part.
Yeah, I just want to say how much I like Bragan. That is, he tells Kat to control herself. Obviously, he has feelings for Kat because he's like looking longingly over at her, but he puts her in her place. So does Maren. Also, he's got some scars around his neck, vertical silver scars down his neck that disappear into his collar. We may never find out what they're from, but it was a very detailed mention that we're supposed to imagine Bragan with a collar of scars. Something's happened. I wonder what has happened to him. That's all.
Yeah.
I have no ideas.
I don't know if it's going to be something related like Xaden. Then maybe it's just a scar for something that he has taken responsibility of.
Maybe he'd have to have some kind of Tyrish link, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Well, maybe Tyrish is scars in the back, and this one is in the neck, like a collar. Moving on to the nightmare.
Yeah, the dream.
Okay, so back to the Sunburn Field. This will be the third nightmare the Violet has about the Venin.
Do you think they're going to go to the Barrens? Do you think it's in the Barrens?
I don't know exactly if it's going to be in the Barrens or could be in a part of the Island Kingdoms, but I definitely think there's going to be, we're going to be in that field physically. It's not going to be in green. There's like a premonition.
It's either in Eurasia, Navarre, or the Barrens, isn't it?
Yeah, could be. I don't know what they're going to be in the Barrens because the Venin are moving out of that place. So why they
I think they'll have to go back. I think they'll have to go there. Is that a thought? Doesn't Riddick say something like, it's hotter than the Barrens up here at some point?
Yeah.
In these group why is the Barrens hot if all the magic's gone? Because the reason it's hot
it should be like a desert is how I thinking. Just like
was it always a desert or is it just barren because the Venin drained the land? Because you know, like with the sunburnt field, they drain the land and it goes all dry and desiccated.
So it's a place with no trees.
But only because it's been drained. But he says it's hotter than the Barrens up here, but that's because there's loads of magic, because there's loads of hatchlings. The Barrens shouldn't be hot if there's no magic there. It's just a phrase.
Yeah, I think it's more related to environment.
Yeah, but the environment is there because they've drained the magic. I don't think it was always barren. It's a relatively small continent. You wouldn't have a desert right next to all that like luscious green, wet, snowy.
I mean, it's like Africa, that you have a part that's just desert, and then you have another part that's a jungle.
I know, but you can't fly on a dragon in 12 hours, surely.
Still, 12 hours flying on a dragon, you will have to go through like a lot of land. So it's still a big continent.
Is it?
We need to ask to Rebecca Yarrow how many feet are in the continent.
Yeah.
Anyway, but going back to the first nightmare the Violet had, the Venin was wearing a maroon hood and his face is really youthful, which is curious because you're always expecting like somebody that is just, I don't know, creepy, old or something. But this is the one that has been waiting for a power like this for centuries.
Daramore. We think that's Daramore, right?
Daramore or Warwick or one of the six. It's somebody from that age. But it's young, apparently.
Yeah. Immortal.
So, yeah. So we don't know exactly. It's going to be in the 20s as well, maybe, if you're right there.
Maybe.
The expectation of life of the rider, not that.
So does that mean you don't age when you become a Venin? You don't age?
No, I think as long as you still channel it, you live forever. Ugly, but forever. Young.
Youthful, but really ugly.
Yes. So this is the first drain and the second drain is the same guy as well. But as I said, there is a sage, and he violates out of the walls, and she will never escape of him. He will hunt her until the end of the continent and beyond. So
To the Isle Kingdoms.
So the two drains is basically the same Venin. This one, now this the third nightmare, the Venin is telling her, show me the power that you use about the trading post. Prove me that you are a weapon worth watching, worth retrieving. He's asking for the confirmation.
Is that the old guy again?
There's no reference about...
The second. Are you talking about the second?
This is the third one.
Oh, okay.
This is happening now
Oh,
in
okay.
this chapter. The difference is that this one has a purple robe and he is trying to find out if a Violet is worthy about all the expectations that are around her. So we know that she's the weapon, and the Venin know that she's a weapon as well.
And he's the one that says, the one who watched thinks you'll never yield, that we should kill you before you grow into your full abilities. So that one is the one that has a
escaped.
staff and just disapparated from the...
From Rezan. He was the clever one. But the difference with this Venin, with the previous one, a part of the robe, there's a purple one, is that this one is touching her. And she said that this is new and it's terrifying. And his hands are down her throat, exposing an expanse of tan art under his robes. This is something overly suspicious, something that made me think, tan, what does it mean? Because, yeah, we have so many
pretty
people.
tan.
Yeah, but the people that we have here in Iron Flame, Fort Wayne, there's a few that are tan. But Venin, and this one is like a full Venin.
Yeah.
I thought the
She
skin would be
describes
like...
them as pale, doesn't she?
Yeah. So I was thinking where there's this mention about the tan color in the arms. Because for me, like tan, it's going to be Xaden from the future or something. But no, it can't be. But what about if it's from Xaden's family tree?
Yeah,
What
we
about
talked
if
about
this
that
is- yeah.
earlier. I can believe that now. I can. The fact also that she uses sweet to describe, can smell a hint of something sweet on his breath. If you search sweet, that is the only mentions of sweet you get are either around Brennan or around Xaden. So Xaden specifically around his body, like the smell of mint, and he's sweet. She says, you're sweet. And he's like, don't ever confuse me with sweet or whatever.
Call me sweet.
Yeah, and the only other mention is around the sweet biscuit that Violet is eating around Brennan at the start. Something, though, that makes me think it's not Xaden or Brennan is that when people have speculated that Violet's dad is Venin, Rebecca says, I know that she says we also shouldn't trust her, but she also says, wouldn't Violet recognize her dad? She would recognize her brother and she would recognize Xaden.
Yeah.
She may not necessarily recognize Xaden's granddad, but
If I never know him.
I don't know. I tend to think she might.
Yeah, for me, the thing that caught my attention about the sweet on his breath is, there's another reference when they're talking about something sweet and it's in the elixir. So I don't know if the elixir has to be related to the venin and why it's sweet. And I was like, but how is it possible? Because venin, with a sweet smell or sweet breath, when we know the wyverns is more like the opposite, or we think they're the opposite, they're more like
Stinky breath.
stinky breath. Yeah. So I was like, why is now the venin or at least this one, had like a sweet. And I was thinking like, could be the just sweet, like a good breath, or could be a hint about the venom. And that made me think as well, like, okay, so if they had like a good breath or a sweet, doesn't mean they had like a really good, like, that made me think like Tecaros, because...
You're obsessed with Tecaros' teeth.
Yeah, he's Venin as well, guys.
No, what I think it could mean, could it be different if you turn for love?
I don't know, because this one is still like just want to take Violet as a possession.
Maybe, but what if Daramor was like, no, let's just kill her. I've said it's Daramor, but what if the general was like, no, I saw her, she's not going to yield, she's just going to be good. And then he's like, oh no, maybe she'll turn for love. This other guy's like, maybe she'll turn for love like me. And he's like, oh, go on then, you try. Because you know what that's like.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think Tecaros is Venin. She'd notice it in his eyes, unless he wasn't channeling, and then what's the point in him being Venin?
I mean, if he's like has so many Venin that's been captured and he's been studying, like checking all this out about it, it wouldn't be logical that maybe he eventually will turn into a Venin as well, or will like desire the power that the Venin doesn't have.
I just don't think that's as interesting as a storyline where someone is using the Venin to get their own power, like to become Queen Mariah's heir when you're a distant cousin and you're already really old. Well, you're not old, you're 50. Sorry, that came out wrong. But you know what I mean? If you're already, and you don't have your own children, he's using it somehow to make his own gains. I think it's more interesting if he's not a Venin, but he's just making deals with Venin.
But that's the other thing that happened 50 years ago. Tecaros was born. You see, everything is just everything's going.
The Antichrist. I really don't like that man.
Yeah. So he says to her, "You'll tear down the world yourself. When the time comes, you will do it for love, or you'll die.
Will she?
You both will."
Do you think she will?
I was thinking it's gonna be like, foreshadowing, maybe for Onyx's Storm. Maybe it's the only way to keep Xaden alive. If she need to sacrifice the wards. I don't know if it's gonna be in Erasia or Navarre.
There aren't wards in Erasia, are there? Not good ones anyway, because they don't have an extra Andana. But yeah, this sentence, like, it made me feel like we will read Onyx Storm and then we'll come back to read Iron Flame and be like, right, come on then. How many clues were there? Oh, look, it literally says you will tear down the wards yourself when the time comes. It feels like that's foreshadowing, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely something about it. But then he started to like cutting her. And then she wake up, and she's dead, and Ten wake up as well, and she asking if he can see her dreams as well. He said basically that go back to sleep. There, you keep him awake.
Yeah,
you just go back to sleep straight away.
Yeah, there is another bit though. Like I just wanted to finish the dream off, where there's another bit where it could be potentially foreshadowing. Where it says you will turn for love. Do we think Violet will also turn Venin?
Not sure, because it's been a couple of times when she's kind of like burning out, or she's like getting like overpowered, and it's like turning into a Venin. Never has been like one option for her, or not even one thought.
Do you know that Rebecca Yarros originally, in the original draft, she had Violet turn Venin and not Xaden?
Really? I didn't know that.
Isn't that interesting?
That could change since later on, maybe.
Like significant change, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was her editor. You know how she didn't want...
Rebecca just bonded with Tern.
She didn't want her to bond with Andana.
Yeah.
But her editor really wanted her to bond with Andana. So she was like, meh, both. These are like key significant changes, aren't they?
Yeah, completely changed. If it's Violet and the end is the one who's saying, you should be scared of me.
Yeah, and also, doesn't that change things a bit with her hair? Because that means she isn't part Venin already.
She might get like full silver hair if she's turning Venin.
Don't know, maybe the silver hair isn't anything to do with the Venin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it could be that she was just drained of life source. Anyway, I agree with you. I don't think Violet will turn Venin, but there's no reason. That's just because of the same reasons that you said.
Mm-hmm.
Two might.
Yeah.
There's nothing that can touch me here. Xaden asleep behind me, my bedroom. So there's a theory, and I've seen this so often, that Violet is a distance wielder. Because in this scene, she wakes up next to Xaden, and Xaden is there. Mm-hmm. There's a bit later on when she's talking about distance wielders, and he says, if I was a distance wielder, do you not think I would spend every night in your bed? A lot of people think that the fact that she, all of a sudden, she said she will tell Xaden about the wards the next time she sees him, but then he's there, and then he's not there. And then he's not, do you see what I mean? He shouldn't have been there, apparently. I completely think that theory is wrong. If Violet was the distance wielder, it would be her not waking up in the bedroom. She would be waking up where Xaden is. So she wouldn't be in the bedroom in Erasure. Also, I think it's just, and then people are like, it's an editing error. It's an editing error. They forgot. It's just basic maths. Xaden is back every 6 nights or every week.
Yeah, and sometimes he just come back in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So that is something that has been a couple of times like this. That she doesn't know when he's coming back. But when it's in the night, he just is next to her.
Yeah.
He doesn't wake her up.
And then he leaves early in the morning and they still don't have time. The next page literally starts with 6 days later, which is when he returns. They're in the...
training with the squads.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think it's basic maths. He came home every 6 days, and I don't think it's a hint to distance wielding. If anything, if you want to make a link to a potential signet, because that's what we do, she needs him in that moment, and he's there.
The other thing is that in that moment, we're talking with Tern. Tern is close to her. Where's Tern? Tern is in Erasure. So if the theory that she's a distant wielder and she's waking up with Xaden, then yeah, it will be because Xaden is sleeping in a post or somewhere. So it won't be
it does make sense.
So.
But is he there because he needs her there? She needs him there. Sorry, that came wrong. But no, I just think it's basic maths. Every 6 days he's back. Sometimes they get a chance to see each other. Sometimes they don't. Yeah. I definitely don't think it's evidence to say that she's a distance wielder, or I don't think it's an editing error. I think it's just 6 days.
Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah.
So this is where Riddick says, when they're out with the squad, you'd think we were in the Barrens. It's so fucking hot in this valley. And it's only 11. I just don't get why it's so hot in the Barrens. We've talked about it because I skipped ahead, but that jumped out at me as being a bit weird.
Yeah, no, for me, it's just because all life had been drained from the land, it turned into like a desert. So when you're always thinking about deserts, it's just always like hot.
Yeah. We get a little bit of a hint here that Andana is not a black dragon, another one. And this is the thing, you read it again once you found out at the end and you realise all the things you missed. Her black scales shine with a green hue this morning, reflecting the grass around her. Maybe it's the result of the lingering gold, and the breathing fire will steal the last of the shimmer. And Tern says, I'm starting to wish I protested your right to benefaction when you asked the Empyrean to bond. She says, good thing you're not head of my den then, isn't it? And then he said, Coda should have known better, which is confirmation that he doesn't know that she's her own den. And she's pushing it there. She knows she's head of her own den. And she's getting really frustrated.
True. No, I think Andana knew all the time. Since she was in the egg, basically. So they had like a training section with the squad. So they had to find 30 runes and be hidden within 20 miles along the western range.
The lure boxes. The same ones that were found at Ressen by Garrick.
Yes. And then as Xaden and his squad arrives.
Do you want a theory?
Well,
Do you want a theory about the runes? About the rune boxes?
what is it?
Dain's dad knows runes and he made the rune boxes. Dain is good with languages. He's also good with runes, potentially. We don't know. I think he gets that from his dad. And his dad is the one making these runes because we know that he set up the situation in Ressen.
Yeah, he put something to attract the Venin.
Yeah.
And they're looking after power.
Yeah. It's just a casual mention. Like, we know that the lures were destroyed. They're simple. They've done simple tracking. They've done simple lures or like runes.
Mm-hmm.
They're obviously not the ones that are going to attract the Venin because they wouldn't be doing that. But it's what we see later on as Jack Barlow is hidden a load all the way down to the Vale. I think they come from Colonel Aetos.
Okay. So this is a part that for me is like funny and interesting when Xaden arrives with Garrick as well. So Garrick say hello to Violet, and then he's the one who said that you need to tell to Xaden, they tell you about how he killed that Venin over there.
Mm-hmm.
And Xaden was like, oh, thanks for that asshole. So it's like funny because, you know, with body, we always say like, oh, body is like always like creating trouble between them, and we're just like, we had this massive conspiracy about body. But Garrick is doing the same in this.
Yeah.
He's
No,
like
no,
getting in
Garrick's
trouble, but he...
helping the communication.
Yeah, that's the thing, that at
'Cause
least
his
he's
signet.
doing it like face-to-face between like the two at the same time. So it's not like telling one thing to another one, then the other thing too, when the other one is not there. Like both of them are there and like, just drop this hit and I just leave
He's
and-
being funny, isn't he? But also this hint to just doing my part to help your communication skills.
Again, communication.
Yeah, I think I've pivoted again from him being really good at finding stuff to being able to communicate over distance. Did you notice that Xaden, I know that he's been at war, and it says the scruff on his jaw is thick with days of growth, and there are circles under his eyes as he reaches forward. I think this is obvious that he's at war, but I also think this is a nod to the fact that he's having nightmares as well. This has just happened. She's just noticing this after her own nightmare. He says later, you aren't the only one with, or earlier, you're not the only one with nightmares. We know that the general is visiting him in his sleep as well. The circles under his eyes, I think, is a bit of a nod.
Yeah, I mean,
that.
but him for when he said as well that he haven't slept well since his dad died.
Yeah, but he always looks great.
So, not this time.
No.
He doesn't want to talk about it, basically.
Garrick and Imogen, we get some banter between Garrick and Imogen as well, don't we?
Yeah, it's like Imogen complaining about Garrick that he doesn't want like
A stable
separate
relationship. And he's like, I'm going to skip the obvious pun to be made about plenty more mares in my stable, seeing as I'm no longer a cadet, but a mature, responsible officer. But we know Imogen liked him. I don't know if she still does, but we know that something went on between Imogen and Garrick.
Yeah.
And I really want to know what the tea is.
Yeah, we don't know if something's going on, something happened, or it's not happening, or what is the current situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to ask our listeners if they've got any headcanon about what happened between Garrick and Imogen. We'll ask
Yeah.
on stories. So once this episode is up, we will have a story. Come and tell us what you think about Imogen and Garrick.
Yeah. Xaden is the one to tell her that, yeah, he killed the Venin outside the Draytos. So they are really close to the cliffs of Dry Lord. So Violet wants to talk to him. Obviously, she need to tell her about the walls, but she is about to leave with the squad. So she said, "Oh, I'll tell you when I come back." And he said, "No, tell me now." She refused and said, "No, the voice of wind leader doesn't work with me anymore." And then he's the one who said that you figure out the way to raise the walls. And she said, like, "I hate when he does that. And like, I'm not that easy to read." And he said, like, "For me, yes."
For me, yeah. Yeah, this is one of those times where I don't think he intentionally reads her intentions. She would feel her scalp prickling, I think. But this could be one of the times where, you know how he says, "I don't do it on purpose, but you do it without realizing, you send your intentions down our bond." Like really frequently. I think this is one of those times where he's not intentionally reading her intentions. I could say the word intention so many times. But he is doing it because she's just sending them down the bond.
Yeah, I think maybe it's like kind of like the difference between listening and heard. So maybe he doesn't want to listen what she's thinking, but obviously sometimes he heard something. They start to have like a discussion mentally, because obviously he wants to do it as fast as possible, like what we need or what went wrong last time. And she said, "Oh, it was dragons. We need the most powerful dragons." "Oh, well, then I will find the most powerful dragons where you are, and before you come back." "No, you can't, because you need turn." So they have like this mental discussion. And then I don't know if you see that here there's like a change of role between Kat and Sloan, because then Kat as the one they're like, are they like fighting silently or something like this? And then it's like, yeah, they do that. Like, you know, like when Brennan and Mira, they were like fighting, and then Xaden and Violet are kissing, and they're like, they start to like not focus on each other anymore. So I see here that maybe Kat like seeing like this weird thing they're doing, maybe as a couple. And maybe for me, it's like, maybe from here, you start to see there's actually something going on between these two. It's not just like having sex or...
It's not, she's not a convenient placeholder. I think also, like, they're going to have to work together on this squad challenge, this training exercise. What is weird to me, though, is that now Violet is resigned to the fact that the wards will go up. She's given the Flyers the chance. Why would she wait? Because if you think about the plot, she needs Kat, or she potentially needs the Flyers' powers, mind work in this task. But like Imogen says in Reagan's living room, every moment that you take to decide this, or if we don't raise it, we are exposing the whole of Erasure and even Tyrandor to danger that doesn't need to exist anymore. So that is what Violet is choosing to do in this moment. She's choosing to expose Tyrandor to danger that no longer needs to exist. And it could be a day, it could be a couple of days, you know what I mean? The Venin could literally attack in that time, and that would be on her.
Any time. And the weird thing is, they're Flyers, they just use mind work. So it's not like if they raise the words straight away, they're going to look like a special scene or special power. They're going to make the difference in the battle.
They're really powerful, because you can see how Kat makes a difference at the end.
Well, yeah, like for this kind of mind work, where maybe you're like close to the enemy or something like this. But if the enemy can come closer because there are walls, so those mind works is not needed anyway. But yeah, the chapter basically finishes when she lives with their squad.
I really like the next bit. I forget about the detail of what happens, and now, I'm excited about the next chapters.
Okay.
Yeah, if you've made it this far, again, thank you for listening. Please tell us what we missed, what you disagree with, what have we gone a bit wild and off-piste on, what would you like to hear more of? Did we say anything that made you think, oh my god, yeah, that's going to happen? Please come over to Instagram. It's where most of the chat happens. You can direct message us. We'd love to get the conversation started under our posts. We love to see the conversations that go on between our listeners and our friends on Instagram. We always get involved. So thank you for listening to Faithfully Fantasy,
the husband and wife podcast talking all things Iron Flame.
Next week, we'll be diving into chapters 53 to 55. We will only be doing 3 chapters next week and the week after, because we're starting to get towards the end, and we would like to make sure that we don't end up with like 1 chapter left at the end. So we're spreading them out a bit. There's also quite a lot to talk about. We get Solus back in the picture next week.
Just to remind you as well, that if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe for more deep dives in the world of Iron Flame. You can also follow us on social media. We are in TikTok, we are in Instagram, where we are more active when we have more people talking about the best bits about this episode and all the episodes.
At Faithfully Fantasy Pod.
We have as well our website, where you can find every single episode of Faithfully Fantasy. You can also find more information about us if you want to contact us. That's another way to do it, is faithfullyfantasy.com. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. We say goodbye for now, but we'll see you next week with more Faithfully Fantasy.
Bye.